Hey everyone, welcome back to the Mean Green Gridiron podcast. I'm your host Billy Sierra, and I am very happy here to be back with the man who's been very busy lately. He's responsible for architecting and putting together and reviewing the Epstein files. Carter, how's it going?
It's been a grueling 6 years. Spent way too much time in DC, but uh, feels like my plan has come to fruition. And
Yeah,
what do they say? The chicken has come home to roost,
they
or
have. Yeah,
however they say it. Yeah, it's the hour of reckoning is here, and
and you can thank Carter for that.
you can thank me, and you can also thank me for all the success our football team has had because uh, I've noted on Twitter. Of course, you were too, but I was at those games in 2021 when we were losing by 40 at home. We were 1-6. Uh, I was at all those games, and I feel like maybe there's like a domino, like a chain reaction of the team kind of starting to feel my spirit and my support. So I'd like to take credit for this season, but you know, it's not
Yeah,
much of a group
and
effort. I think it's mostly me.
yeah, no, I would agree with that. And the ranking as well, 22nd. Carter's vote in the AP helped us get that as
Yes.
well, so that was nice too. Another cherry on top. But
Real,
um,
real quick, hang on, real quick. Before we start talking about games and stuff, can we have like a 5 minute ranking discussion? Can I go off on like a 2 second tangent?
yeah, no, I was kind of thinking that made most sense.
I just I've said for years, and this has nothing to do with our current predicament. I think the college football playoff rankings being the default rankings at this point in the season is a farce. It's
Yeah,
very annoying that we got ranked for the first time in school history and then immediately got wiped because of a brand new, well, not brand new, but relatively new ranking system that does not hold any weight right now. No disrespect to Tulane, they're a really good team, I think. And if you want to argue they're better than us or deserve to be there ahead of us, that does not bother me so much. It's We earned that ranking, and to have it stripped 2 days later because hey, we're going to put Tulane ahead of North Texas, even though you know Tulane still has some losable games. I guess you could say we do too. And nobody's played a conference championship game yet. So the point of the college football playoff rankings in early to mid November is completely stupid to me. I don't
yeah,
understand why we can't just run with the A people. I get we have to have like here's how the playoffs would be if the season ended today. I get that. Um, I think it's stupid. I think it's a real bummer that we had gone 60 years without being ranked and we finally got it, and then it just gets taken away, not because we did anything wrong, but because, oh, hey, okay, so you're going to be ranked for 48 hours because the AP poll, but then some other poll comes in and
yeah.
snipes
I mean,
that from you. I think it's
it
stupid. It's stupid.
it feels like the college football playoff rankings this early. It feels like that was really more intended to be like a talking point for ESPN, like
Right.
for their shows and for the discourse around college football of like, hey, here's here's something for more people to talk about and talk about ESPN, talk about college football, whatever. Um, but for that to potentially decide who hosts our conference championship game, for example, like you said,
Exactly.
that's supposed to be the thing that reflects who won the conference championship game, not dictates who is hosting it. So yeah, I'm with you on that one. But regardless, I think you see 22 in the AP poll, 23rd in the coaches poll. It's a long time coming. I think yeah, I'm confused. I think it's because the 77 team had some uh infraction or something to that effect. But uh,
Did they play 12 games? That team was
I
that
don't think anybody played 12 games back then. I think they were
right?
mostly 11 game seasons. But I think one of the games was I think that might have been one of the years where they had to forfeit a game like retroactively. Uh,
Yes.
I could be because I know that was the other thing with like the 5-0 start was the last time they started 5-0 was 77 or whatever, but it was wiped out um by some sanction or whatever. But anyways, because then we hear 59 as well was the last time they were ranked, and whatever it is, the point is it's been a really long time. Certainly not in either of our times as a fan, and and yeah, I think like you said, it sucks that it got overshadowed a little bit of the college football playoff ranking, but I mean, regardless, I think this is, for a North Texas fan who's been around for the last 20 plus years, or since let's say since we moved back to 1A FBS in 1995. This is definitely the height of where this program has been. And think about all the times that North Texas fans have won 7 national championships in a row on NCAA football, or or maybe you thought the 2018 team was going to be ranked. Like, however you envisioned it, or however you were able to manifest it, virtually or in your mind, it's actually here, and now we see what the actual ranked North Texas team looks like. It's real, it's tangible, and it's fun to see a number next to the logo. But what are your thoughts on kind of, I know we talked about, hey, going to the games and seeing some of these just crushing losses or these low points of the program. Like, what are your kind of other takeaways on kind of that full circle moment here?
Yeah, I was going to chime in too and say, kind of on your last point, it feels really fun that it's November 19th when we're recording this, and we have like really serious, impactful rooting interest this weekend.
Yeah.
Like, we're actually really cheering for Temple to beat Tulane, which they probably won't, but we're cheering for it. And even still, there's we want Washington State to beat JMU. There's other results that would make North Texas a little bit of a clear-cut, more so than they are now, more a clear-cut favorite to represent G5, G6, whatever you want to call it, in the playoff. I think the larger point is just that it's really cool and fun that we're at this point in late November. It was fun when we were 4-0, 5-0 coming into the USF game, but we kind of didn't really know how the rest of the season would pan out. We still had some bigger matchups left on the docket. Now it's all pretty much behind us. We destroyed our main rival in terms of recruiting and kind of where we evaluate our program in the American and UTSA.
Yeah.
We got a good quality win over Navy, who did exactly what we needed them to do, and they beat South Florida by a smidge of a hair, but it still counts. They beat them, and Navy being our best win, their schedule was pretty weak coming into our game. We beat them, and then they get destroyed by Notre Dame. And so we're kind of thinking, oh, is this really the best team we beat? And then they go and get a good quality win over South Florida.
Right.
So, all things are coming up, Mean Green, and I am blissful that we are in the spot we're in where, if we take care of business and finish out the season with a couple of wins, which we should, barring some nightmare scenario, we'll get ranked again. And we're going to have the chance to at least play in a conference championship. It would be really, really nice to host it. That's why we're cheering for some results to swing a certain way this weekend. But even just being there, I mean, I know other podcasts have talked about it, kind of reflecting back on like the season previews and like where we thought this team was going to be. You and me both kind of said the same thing as a lot of other fans online, which was just, if they win 8 games, that's kind of the expectation with how weak our schedule was this year. But like, maybe we could win 9 or 10. Well, now we're looking at an 11-win season.
Mm-hmm.
Not to jump ahead 2 games, but you have 2 closeout games against Rice and Temple, who are both very beatable. One of them's at home. Rice is essentially half a home game. Every time we play them in Houston, it's really well traveled because a lot of locals. So we're in a really good spot. I don't think there's anything to be really upset about. I just think that the ranking system, regardless of our current predicament, like I said, it's just a farce. I don't understand why anybody puts any credibility into these playoff rankings until the last one. I've said that multiple times and I stand by it. There's no reason to get like angry or pumped up about a ranking that is not going to matter in 2 weeks because you haven't played the conference championship. You're looking at like Ohio State. Like, I mean, obviously it's different because they're Ohio State. They're not going to tout being number one because they're always number one. But, they still got to go play Indiana in the conference championship game. So, and Indiana has to go play Ohio State. So that 1 and 2 really does not matter right now,
Right.
Tulane still has to play their conference championship opponent, which will be us or Navy. So it doesn't it just doesn't hold much weight with me. I don't understand why it holds weight with other people. I'm not here to tell people how to enjoy their college football season, but the only ranking I care about is the AP one. And it just, again, like I said, it just stinks that we had it for a day and then it was gone. We should be ranked. I consider us a top 25 team. If Rice manages to beat us, they should qualify it as a ranked win.
Yeah.
Which obviously I hope that does not happen. But yeah, again, like I said, it's stupid and pointless and meaningless to be actually mad about it. But everything else is going swimmingly here in Denton. And we got Billy Napier coming to practices now. So we got celebrity stock going up.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're also doing the plane tracking. I noticed today. We're in watching the jets take off from Denton's airport, seeing where's this plane going, and is this coach going to visit Florida? Maybe I don't know. So it's just fun. My final point is, like I said, everything that we're going through right now is really a first for us as a fan base. We're enjoying the competitive nature and the fruits of winning in college football, and it feels good. It feels fun and nice to have meaningful games late in the season, and everything we do from here on out matters. That's cool. I think that's fun. I'm not taking it for granted.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I think that's all I have on kind of the state of affairs. And like you said, we're staring at 11-1. Just 2 games that we should win, but you have to actually go ahead and execute. So, speaking of executing, the North Texas Mean Green beat the UAB Blazers in Birmingham.
I thought you were about to go into a Brian Kelly getting fired news dump there. Talking about executing.
Wait, what are you talking about?
You remember when they asked him? It was after it was when he was at Notre Dame.
Okay.
Some reporter was like, "Yeah, you didn't really execute tonight," or whatever she said. He goes, "I think our whole team should be executed after that performance." Like,
no,
anytime I hear execute, I don't know. We hadn't really talked about Brian Kelly much on this podcast, so
I thought you were talking about like his recent firing, but
he's been fired twice since that happened. That's true.
So yeah, the North Texas beats UAB by the score of 53-24. Which was a good game in terms of taking care of business, starting out 28-0, really putting any doubt in that game away very quick, but also exercising some demons. UAB is a team that has beat us the 10 or so years we've been in the conference with them. Back to Conference USA, we have traveled to Birmingham 3 times, and all 3 times have been pretty crushing losses. The first one was 2014. They beat us by lots. I think what was the scores? They beat us 56-21 in 2014, and then 2018. We know that was a tough loss, 29-21. But we were up 21-10 at halftime, and that was a game that was kind of another game for a chance to go to the conference championship game had we won out. Of course, we had the Old Dominion loss later that year. And then 2022, the last time we went to the conference championship game in Conference USA, we had a chance to clinch at UAB, and then they beat us 41-21, and they weren't even a good team that year. They fired Clark, their coach. So, all that to say, yeah, we exercised some demons, started at 28-0, and you have to talk about, Caleb Hawkins' first 5 touchdowns. He's up to 16 rushing touchdowns on the year, which is second in the nation. 19 total touchdowns scored this year. Just, back when he really had that breakout game against Army, my thought was I feel like he raises the ceiling of this team because we knew we'd have a good offense, but we didn't account for having a running back of that caliber, and we definitely do. And all he's done since then is just continue to kind of break that stratosphere of what we think he's capable of, just continually pushing that. What are your thoughts on Hawkins and just seeing him run into the end zone time after time?
All those touchdowns are just a complete joy to watch.
Yeah.
the funny thing going back is like, go back to week 2 or 3 when Drew's just starting to kind of pop off, and we're like, oh, we got to do everything we can to keep this young freshman kid,
Yeah.
hope he can keep it up. And now there's like, shoot, I mean, if Drew Messamaker transfers and we got to keep Hawkins, the reaction from me at least would be like, well, okay, at least we got at least we got Hawkins back. Like, he has been so much fun to watch this year. Just a complete workhorse of a running back. Literally doing things that haven't been done here since Patrick Cobbs, who's the best running back we've ever had. It's been so fun, man. Every time he gets contact, I'm not worried about him going down because he seems physically superior to everybody on the field, it seems like. I don't know. I think I talked about this on the last episode, but I don't think there's a way, at least not that I found, to track yards after contact numbers for college online. I have tried. At least I've like 4 or 5 databases I've checked do not track that like they do in the NFL. I would be curious to see what his yards after contact numbers are, because I would bet that he's got to be like a top 10, top 20 yards after contact back in college football. I mean, I know he hasn't played the toughest of tough defenses this year, but against everybody, top to bottom, even the better defenses, he has just looked superior out there. Like, it's nice to know that we can rely on him as a passing threat too. We can use him in short yardage downs. We can count on him for 15-yard chunks if we need to. He's been everything we need out of a running back this year, especially when we're not using the normal kind of like running back by committee that we've been a little bit accustomed to the last couple of years.
Right.
Obviously,
he's the feature back.
Yeah, for sure. He's the feature back, and not to take anything away from McGill or anybody else. Like, we still get production out of those guys too, and they've all been good at various points. But to have a guy just completely take the spotlight this year that wasn't Drew Messamaker has been awesome. Obviously, I hope we can keep him. I hope he sticks around. I hope he realizes that Patrick Cobbs is a genius, as I have heralded him for years. I don't know how that man is still a running backs coach at North Texas, because his resume of guys he's pumped out. I know not a ton of like NFL guys, whatever, but like, look at the stats, man. With just running backs come to North Texas and they thrive. And to have a guy so clearly stand out better than the rest is awesome. But it's fun. I'm having a good time with Caleb Hawkins.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, Hawkins up to 16 touchdowns on the year rushing. The North Texas single season record is 19, held by Patrick Cobbs in 2003. So he's 3 away from breaking that record. Definitely seems like it's in sight. I think what most impresses me with him about, like you said, it's the after contact stuff, but specifically, I don't know if you ever watch like a player you have in fantasy and like his team is in the red zone and you're like, oh shoot, my running back is, Jahmyr Gibbs or whatever. The Lions have the ball at the 6-yard line and you're watching, and then you see like, oh, first down, he gets like 1 yard, and then second down, they throw the ball, and now it's like, oh shoot, now it's 3rd and 5.
Yep.
Like the chance for him to score here, like run a touchdown in, is gone and past. Like, Hawkins is continually running the ball in, like the first real chance he gets in the near in the red zone, whether it's first and goal or first and 10 from the 13. So whatever the situation is, it's like they're giving him the ball and he is getting into the end zone. He is not forcing Drew to complete a third and goal from the 8 or things like that. I mean, Hawkins is getting in the end zone quickly on early downs. I don't have the stats in front of me as far as like what it is, but that's what it feels like watching it. It's like he is, when UNC has the ball in the red zone, it's like you're on high alert. Like, this is going to be the play where he runs it in, and he kind of pretty much has been doing that every time.
Well, and that's probably the most important thing about him, is that he's basically been the solution to our red zone problems from last year. Like,
Right.
I know we've got a new quarterback too, but like, that was the big question coming in this year was like, okay, our offense was good in 24, but they sucked in the red zone. They could not finish drives.
Yeah.
And to have him be able to not only fix that, but like make it so that we're a guaranteed threat to score every time we're in the red zone. It's just like you can't take that for granted.
Yeah, 10th in the nation in red zone scoring offense this year for North Texas. You know, and like you said, one of the few kind of areas of weakness in the offense last year has been fully remedied by Hawkins. And then, you know, as far as the rest of the game, you know, another big game from Wyatt Young, another big game from Drew Mestamaker. Definitely the trio has you know solidified itself. Cameron Dorner as well at receiver has had a huge season. I mean, he is a legit outside threat as well to go with what Young's doing on the slot in the slot receiver position. But yeah, Mestamaker, and then the offensive line is playing great. The Navy game on Hawkins 4 rushing touchdowns. I was rewatching those plays, and Braden Nelson had, I think, 3 pancake blocks on those 4 touchdowns. So, you know, shout out to the offensive line. I know we don't give them as much love, but
they've been amazing.
You know, they have been great. You know, like I said, Nelson just pancaking dudes, and Hawkins running behind him was really fun. Go rewatch those Navy touchdowns, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But Tay Yanta at center has been a really solid force there. You know, Gabe Blair, we know what he's done for so long now. And then, you know, Obadegwu at right tackle starting to stay healthy. And then Johnny Dixon has been just a solid starter at right guard since kind of the second half of last year, and, you know, unsung hero on the team, but not as big as the rest of the offensive linemen, but you can tell, I mean, he works his butt off and really drives dudes until the whistle. So yeah, shout out to the offensive line. Great game from them. Defensively, want to talk about the defense. I will say my biggest I guess complaint about this game is just the yardage that the defense allowed. Defense made some big plays. You had obviously the turnovers early. You had the pick near the end zone by Fisher. That was a huge play. You had the fumble, and then you had the 2 late picks by Will Jones. So the defense continues to do a great job of forcing turnovers. UAB not a bad offense, so you know I get it, but at the same time, I think they were pushing 500 yards of total offense, so that was a little bit concerning. 478 yards for them. You know, part of that is we got such a big lead so early that UAB wanted to lengthen the game out and, you know, try and keep the clock stopped as long as possible, trying to, you know, overcome a 28-point first half deficit. But, you know, regardless, I feel like there were a lot of yards given up. Third down efficiency, they were 9 of 17, which, you know, isn't terrible, but, you know, obviously you want to continue to improve that third down defense. You wanted that to be under 50%, and it wasn't. We're still 127th in the country in third down conversion percentage defensively. So I don't know. What are your thoughts about the defensive performance, the good and the bad here against UAB?
Yeah, we've touched on it before. The over reliance on turnovers can come back to bite you. I think when you're talking about like third downs and stuff like that, I think it's a little bit more manageable to not be so dominant with it if you're up 28-0 and have a lead to work with it. I know we did kind of, I don't want to say squander, but I think they cut it to 2 scores or 3 scores later on.
38-21 maybe, or 38-18, something like that.
Something like that. It was never really in doubt, but they cut it in a little bit.
Right.
But in a game where you're controlling things and you're clearly the superior team, and it's just about at that point, you know, kind of running your plays and taking care of your business.
But you do need style points at this point, at this stage in the year.
Yeah, you do. Well, we ended up getting them. I think the final score being whatever it was, 53-24. That's a good 29-point win. I'll take that. Especially on the road. Good road, almost a 30-point victory on the road. But a road 50 burger nonetheless. I like the 50 burgers. No, I mean, we've talked about it all year. Just the defense is great at creating turnovers. I don't want to call them bend but don't break, because it's not exactly like that. They are very successful at getting turnovers, which is obviously such a key part of, you know, they're not really a high scoring defense, but they get they get the offense back on the field, which is the main point with this
Yeah.
team is you're going to score pretty much every time you touch the ball. So just get the offense back out there, whatever you need to do. I'm not really too concerned with this team being like, they're not going to be great at getting turnovers, and then also when they're not getting turnovers, 3-and-outs and punts every time. That's just like they're not. They're a Sam Houston State transfer defense, and the guys who are left over from last year or whoever else, like this program has been abysmal at pretty much everything on defense. They've been bad at tackling. They've been bad at reads. They've been bad at, creating pressure on quarterbacks. Like everything's been bad. So for this team to at least be really good at something and to have that to work with, and that something being creating turnovers, I'll take it. I'll take it. I understand, we gave up 400 however many yards to UAB, and that's a not very good team. They're out there playing for pride, and it's late in the season, and it was a road game with like 300 people. So I don't really think there's too much to read into. Like I said, you can't be great at everything. If you did, you'd be ranked number one and the best all the time. And UNT is a new team acclimating to success for the very first time. So it's fine if our worst problem is that, hey, we're scoring the ball we're scoring on pretty much every time we touch the ball. Our defense is getting 3-4 turnovers a game. But when they're not getting turnovers, we do give up some chunk yards, and the other team might score 25 to 30 points. But it's okay because we're going to score 50. That's fine. I mean, it's probably not going to, fare very well for us when we're playing Tulane in the conference championship or Texas Tech in the playoff if we make it. Those sort of games are the games where you're like, okay, I don't know if I really trust the defense here to be the catalyst we need it to be. But at least right now, where we're at, it's fine. I think if you can just find something that works, which, like I said, our secondary is great at reading passes. They're not great at defending the pass, but they read passes well enough to get picks, which is enough of a game changer to help you win games. That's fine. So just keep improving going forward. Keep getting guys in here who are, better at creating pressure on quarterbacks, better at tackling. I mean, obviously we've seen a huge improvement in tackling this year. You can tell the difference it's made. So yeah, just keep getting better.
Yeah, and we talked about this going into the year, but and this was everybody's point about UNT, including I was listening to an old episode of the Dave Campbell Texas football podcast that Mike Craven and I forget the other guy's name is, young guy. But anyways, I was listening to like a preseason episode they did with Stephen Godfrey. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he's a
yes,
prominent blogger, shut down Fullcast, friend of that show, and a guy who's really plugged into college football across the country. And he was saying how even he being like a national guy or kind of an SEC centric guy was basically saying like, North Texas, they hired that defensive coordinator from Sam Houston. And if they can just be a bad to, decent, respectable defense, then
just
they
like
can
we said.
Up. And that's what everybody said. And like I said, it was funny hearing it from a national guy. Like even anybody who observed North Texas even just a little bit could tell you that would be the case, and that has been the case. We're still 10 games in the year, 76th in the country in points allowed per game, 88th in the country in yards allowed per game, yards per play 68th in the country. So again, for the defense, they do have some flaws on third down and giving up rushing yards, but regardless, I mean, they are where we wanted them to be realistically. 76 in the country in points allowed per game. I think we both would have taken that at the beginning of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe wouldn't have thought 9-1, but I think we would have thought, okay, we're in business if that's the case. 7-3, 8-2, maybe even. But yeah, absolutely, that has been where you want the defense, the improvement that you wanted to see realistically from Skylar Cassidy. So yeah, got to give him credit. Forcing the turnovers has been great. Sadiq Clements, good defensive tackle, transfer from Louisville. I thought he made a couple big plays. He had a sack, and he also had a big fourth down stop. He's looked solid filling in for Vilea. I think he kind of gets better every week, and this was probably his best game of the year. Kevion Huddleston, another defensive end from TCU. He's almost kind of filling into a starting role. Initially he was behind Ethan Day and kind of rotating with him, where now they're playing them both on the field at the same time. Huddleston picked up another sack. He's got 5 on the year. TCU transfer, just another good identification by Cassidy. Kevion Huddleston, he had 1 career tackle coming into this year in his 2 years at TCU. He was had some injury issues, but to evaluate a guy who had such little game film and to get this much production out of him, I think is really a testament to, Cassidy's evaluation skills. So, pretty pleasantly surprised by that. But I think you kind of touched on everything there. It was a good solid win. They were kind of getting a little bit closer than you would have liked after the start, but North Texas, able to put him away. Mestamaker, Hawkins just continuing to score whenever they needed to, whenever the game was even getting a little bit not dicey, but closer than you wanted it to. They had an answer, and there was really no question about that. So with that, I think we can go into the Rice game, and we've talked about this already. Rice and Temple, last 2 games, very winnable games. Rice, I think we're 18.5-point favorites on the road. I'm sure next week against Temple is going to be similar at home. But one thing I'll say about this North Texas team, we're super proud of them for being the first ranked team in this century and for accomplishing everything that they have. But one thing I will say is that the other good teams in North Texas recent history, they've all kind of been overshadowed a little bit by some really bad losses.
Yep.
You look at the 2018 team, that was a really good team, but those, in particular, that Louisiana Tech loss, that one we all still look back at that and we're like, man, that was just such a crushing loss to like the momentum the program had, and the conference championship implications, and then they lost to UAB and UAB in Old Dominion in really embarrassing comeback fashions as well that year, and then just with a bowl game opportunity to maybe erase the pain from those losses, they got smoked by Utah State. 2017, same thing. A really good team, but those losses to Florida Atlantic, in particular, the one where you lost 69-31, and then also lost that bowl game to Troy. Like those losses really kind of overshadowed what were otherwise solid seasons. 2013, same thing. You had a chance to go to the conference championship game and you lose at home to UTSA, a team that they had no business losing to that year. You can go on down the list. 2003, lost the bowl game. Beat Baylor that year and went undefeated in conference, but then lost the bowl game. So, all that to say, some of our better teams in North Texas history have really had some losses that kind of stung and kind of soured the taste in our mouths after the season of, man, like that was a good season, but man, those losses, like those really, if only we hadn't blown those chances. This is no different right here. You've got Rice, you've got Temple. You cannot let this team be defined by the game that they should have won. And these are chances to again kind of heal those past traumas and say, okay, this team's different. They're going to go into Rice. They're going to take care of business just like they did against UAB, and not going to think twice about it. Rice is 90th in the country in points allowed per game, and they're 115th in points scored per game. They obviously are coming from kind of a similar offense from kind of Navy and Army. A lot of the kind of triple option heavy scheme. So, early on, kind of Scott Abel is their head coach. He's first year head coach, taking over from Mike Bloomgren. So what are kind of some of your early thoughts on this matchup against Rice, both internally, North Texas, how you think they're going to handle it, and then externally, what challenges Rice might present?
Well, as far as Rice goes, I feel the same way about them as I do as Charlotte, I feel the same way about Rice as I do about Charlotte, which is that their early head coaches are both really, really good head coaches. And I think that this is a team that could be a real threat in a couple of years if they really implement this this heavy option run the ball kind of style of ball well. I don't know how good Rice football can realistically become, but I think they have a good system in place. They've had actually a decent season so far for a first year head coach. They did beat UConn, that's a solid win for Rice this year. But outside of that, they beat UAB by a touchdown. They beat an FCS team at home. They beat an FCS team by 21. They beat Charlotte by like 10 points, and they barely beat a bad Louisiana team. So if, God forbid, if something terrible happens this weekend and we fumble this game, we would not only be their best win, we'd be their best win by a country mile. I mean, they have not put a well-put game together. I mean, you look at their losses. They got crushed by Memphis. They got destroyed by UTSA. They lost 61-13. They lost to a not good Florida Atlantic team at home. Right. Navy, that was during Navy's streak of beating bad teams by 10 points. And then they got crushed by Houston. So, like, they don't have a great resume other than a modest win over UConn. Yeah. So as far as the resume goes, I don't think there is enough with Rice presently to really be concerned about. Like I said, I think they have a really good head coach who has he's been at like smaller schools. I know he coached at Davidson.
Right.
I don't remember where he was before that, but he's got a good track record of his system working and putting together consistent winning seasons. Again, I don't know how you can do that at Rice because they have not really experienced that recently, but I think this is a team that could be decent, kind of like Charlotte in a couple of years. They're just not now. Again, I talked about it earlier. This is a game North Texas fans know. We always travel well to it. Doesn't matter how good or bad we are. We have a lot of alumni in Houston. This is a game that should have a lot of our representation at. But you talked about, like, obviously, just plain black and white. Of course, you don't want to lose this game. Of course, you don't want to end a 9-1 streak by losing to a 5-5 first-year head coach team. Like, this is not a game you want to lose. But when you talk about, like, the stakes of winning these last two games, you kind of talked about, like, the best teams that we've had in recent memory, or just go out of the 21st century. Just, like you said, 2018, 2017, early 2000s. All those great teams that are the best teams we've had are all marred by a stupid loss or losses, and a lot of the jarred, kind of jaded fans who don't want to commit to this ball club and don't want to fully buy in are, they understandably have some fatigue from that, where it's like every time we kind of have that chance to really take a big step, we poop the bed. And you talked about that 2018 team. I remember that La Tech, and I know people talk about the La Tech game all the time, but that game going into it, they had the Mean Joe Green statue revealing right outside. We just beat Arkansas, who again was terrible. That team was terrible, but we still beat them. We beat the snot out of them at their place. That La Tech game felt like hey, we might have really made it. Like, this might be it. And then we blew it. So I don't know that we have a game like that against Temple coming up next week. But the overall vibe of the program right now is like, hey, we are actually going to try and be good at this football thing. We're going to compete, and we're going to be competitive in a good conference, and we're going to recruit well against, schools that we have measured ourselves against recently and should be competitive with. So, like I said at the beginning, everything's coming up roses and cheeky for us, but not only can you not lose this game to a mediocre Rice team, you just cannot blow these last two games. You cannot. And I meet people all the time working at the ticket and being in sports around DFW where, like, I know a lot of people who went to UNT and like football but just don't have any sort of love or interest in our team. Yeah. And these are the last two games of a season where if you can put together an 11-win campaign, you're going to the conference championship. You might be hosting it. we got playoffs on the line. I mean, like this is a huge opportunity here, and I don't worry about the team overlooking it. There's nothing on our resume so far that has. I mean, I know the USF game was like, okay, the lights are a little bit too bright, but nothing the team has done this year has worried me about like, this might be a little bit of a trap, and I don't know if we have the cojones to handle it. I mean, look at what happened in Charlotte. We were struggling for the whole first half of that game, and we're like, is this really how it's going to end? And then we won that game by like 30 points. So I'm not worried. I'm not stressed. I think this is a team we can successfully move the ball on. Like you said, their defense isn't that good, and they don't score a whole lot. I do think they might be just talented enough on offense to give us a little bit of a fit, but I think this will probably go about the same way as maybe Charlotte and UAB, where like at some point in the game we're up by 25, 30 points. They might be able to work a little bit against our defense, but there's not a ton here. I'm not going to jump ahead to Temple, but as far as these last two games go, neither of these teams pose a real threat to us. As long as we handle our business and show up and put in the same effort, we're going to be fine. I just really, like you mentioned, I just don't want this to be a season where we're like, oh man, what? Just if we didn't lose that one game, it's to 5-5 Rice. Like, dude, I know they're playing for a bowl. I know they're playing for a good head coach in his first year. We can win this game with ease.
Yeah, and I think we can win this game with ease. But I think even beyond that, as far as losing the game, I don't think Rice can beat North Texas in a 4-quarter game. I could see them having a lead at halftime or after a quarter, but I think that just with the way Mestemaker's playing right now, the way this offense is moving the ball, like they when they get going, I think they just impose their will so hard on the other team that it really changes the tone of a game. You talked about the Charlotte game. When the offense got moving, it was like you could tell Charlotte started to shirk away a little bit. Like, oh man, actually we can't play with these guys. Like
they try to fake punt to stay in the game.
Right, exactly.
And it was a 1-score game when that happened.
Right. Yeah, because they knew it was slipping away. Like they felt the tide shifting. They felt how, imposing our offense was. And then, the UAB game, it was like boom, 28-0. The offense obviously had some help with turnovers, getting turnovers forced by the defense, but for the offense to just go out and execute and like boom, 28-0. That's it. We can score on these guys whenever we want. And that changes the tone of the game, whether it happened early against UAB or late against Charlotte. I think if you need it against Rice, they're gonna do it, when they need to. Like I don't see a scenario where it's like, oh crap, we're down 21 to 17 in the third quarter and we just can't figure it out. It's like, no, we need to score. All right, fine, we're gonna go score. Let's stop playing with these guys. I think that's what I take solace in. But again, unfortunately, we talked about this earlier, but we do need some style points. We do need, to actually have a win that looks good to people who are, in charge of, making those decisions. You do want to win this game handily. And I think, Eric Morris is saying all the right things, we're not worried about rankings. We're not worried about whatever. We're just focused on each week. But he absolutely knows what's at stake. And I think that if he sees the team is winning by maybe not as wide a margin as, you would hope in, the third quarter or whatever, I think you'll see him turn on like, okay, we need to score here. We're not going to try and coast out a 31-17 win. We're going to try and put the pedal to the metal and really, widen the margin and leave no doubt by the end of the game that, North Texas was the much better team. So that's kind of, what I expect, to happen is, whether it's early or late, I think you're going to see this team play with some urgency to not just win the game, but win the game without much concern.
Yeah, I agree. I couldn't agree with more with what you said. I don't think they can match up with us for 4 quarters. They're one of the better rushing teams in terms of yardage in the country, but I would not classify them as efficient.
Right.
Like I said, I mean, their system works. What they do works, and they got to get the personnel in. I just don't think they have it yet, and I think they may have enough to hang with us for a couple quarters. I always feel so bad when I talk about teams like this from my podcast setup. Like, oh yeah, they definitely can't hang with our boys, but yeah, like I said, I'm giving Rice credit. I think they're on a good track. I think they have a great head coach. I think that it would be really fun to see them be good at football, and I would have no issue with them being one of our toughest matchups. It's good for North Texas if Rice is good at football, so we would like that, but not right now. This week, they don't have the personnel, and I just want us to take care of business. We'll worry about Temple when we get there, but like you said, I trust Morris enough where it's like, just let the game kind of carry out the way it's going to, and if you're not up by 15 at some point in the third quarter, turn on the Jets. Like, let's go. So,
yeah, for sure. I think you hit the nail on the head with Rice's rushing attack. They're 19th in the country in rushing yards per game, but they're only 89th in the country in yards per rush. So obviously a team that's going to run the ball a ton, but is not as effective. Whereas, compared to North Texas, we are averaging, we're 15th in the country in yards per rush. So we rush for less yards per game than them, but we're much more efficient when we do, run the ball. So obviously, big part of that is Caleb Hawkins, the offensive line, like you said, personnel-wise, just being ahead of them. They do have a good running back in Quentin Jackson. Their quarterback Chase Jenkins is going to run the ball a good bit as well. Quentin Jackson's got 758 yards on the season, 5'7" running back out of Fort Worth. So that'll present potentially an issue. I think the rush defense has been kind of our Achilles heel defensively. We are 131st in the country in rushing yards allowed per game. And part of that's playing Army and Navy already, and Western Michigan, who's, super run heavy, towards the top of the country in rushing yards per game as well. So you played a lot of heavy run teams, but you've also had some trouble stopping them. So from that standpoint, that is kind of where my biggest concern is as far as, allowing them to stay in this game, is that we just don't handle rushing offenses that great. We do enough to win. Navy certainly, that was probably our best performance defensively, probably of the year. But especially given the circumstances. But we did allow 311 rushing yards that game. So I think you have to be able to force negative plays. Same thing we talked about against Navy and Army. If you can get them into 2nd and 10, 2nd and 11. Then now all of a sudden, you get them, 3rd and 8. That's not where they want to be. And that's what you have to do defensively, is you have to be able to make plays on those early downs where they are kind of off script and they're not, you don't want 2nd and 5, 3rd and 2. That's where they want to live there all day. The other thing is, we've talked about our defense. You mentioned this a lot, of the defense is very bend but don't break. The good thing about playing the Army and Navy kind of teams and Rice is that when you have that bend but don't break defense, and you have a turnover heavy defense like we do, the longer their drives go, the more likely they are to cough it up or to, just have a miscue. As good as they are at running these schemes and as, much as they practice it, there's still, when you run, try and score on a 15-play drive, you're bound to have, one play that you kind of, pitch the ball when you shouldn't have, or you have a handoff miscue, whatever. So I think that's another thing that we have to be able to force, is like make them, don't let them just have these big pop runs where they get 40, 50, 60 yards. You have to make them, really earn it and grind it out. And, if that means that they make a mistake, then you capitalize on it. But,
sure.
But yeah, that's where I am. I don't think there's too much more to say from my end, but, I will say, like I said earlier, with the whole, statistics thing, I think, Caleb Hawkins, you got him eyeing, the school record for touchdowns in the season. You got Mestemaker over 3,000 yards. So like this team, the individuals you're going to start seeing over these, next 2 weeks, you're going to start seeing, potentially some records being broken and some, some records being pushed or whatever the case may be. I think Messmaker's already set the school, like every school record for freshman passing stats this year. So, anyways, that's something to keep an eye on. If you're a stats guy like me, is can this team keep padding the stats a little bit and allowing this game to not be close. But do you have any other thoughts on this one before we kind of say what our score predictions are going to be?
Just that it has been a season full of magic and fun, and I've said fun probably 800 times this episode, but it really has just been so much fun. This is the most fun I have ever had, and maybe ever will have, cheering for this team. So I'm not taking it for granted. I'm not trying to talk down on other teams, because we have certainly gotten a lot of chippy fans this year, which I don't think our fan base specifically is that boisterous and cocky. I am a little bit biased, but we do have some chippy fans throughout the conference, and some G5 schools trying to tell us to sit back down and know our place. And it's like, yeah, I mean, we do. We're just here having fun. But yeah, there's just some bad teams on the schedule, and this is one of them. Not that they're terrible, but this is a team that we should beat and be able to comfortably walk away with a win. And I would very much like it if the greatest season I have ever had the pleasure of enjoying with North Texas football does not come crumbling down on Saturday. So that's my final thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for score prediction, I'm gonna go with a 45 to 21 victory. I think that like I said, I think that their rushing game will present some challenges, just in terms of maybe our defense not being as suited for that style. But at the end of the day, I think you just have more talent. And I kind of want to predict a 50 burger, but I feel like I'm getting a little too greedy with those, given that three of our last 4 games. It's a safe
bet right now.
It is. I think 3 of our last 4 games we've got 50 points. So, I'm just gonna go percentages wise and say maybe 4 out of 5 is pushing it a little bit, but I'm gonna say 45-21.
I will go against the grain. I will take the 50 burger. I think this is a safe 50 burger. I don't trust their defense to do enough to stop us. Give me North Texas 50. What do we have? We're not going to get 53 again. I'll go 55.
Ooh.
55-34. I think there might be some points in this one. I think it might be a little bit of a messy first half, kind of like Charlotte. Maybe some burst plays and just some overall silliness. But I could see like a 28-20 type of game at halftime that we pull away and take care of. So I'll go 55-34.
All right, cool. Well, Carter has been pretty accurate, so I think that should go well for the Mean Green.
I haven't really listened back to any of our episodes this year. I did last year a whole lot, but this year I have not gone back and listened to my score predictions. I need to do that.
Yeah, I'm remembering like a couple that you got right, but I don't, off the top of my head, I can't remember exactly which games those were, but it stood out when it was like, oh yeah, Carter got UNT score right and was like 3 points off on the other team, but. Like you said, a lot of fun. It's fun when you're predicting winning scores and then you're just trying to figure out who was more accurate on the winning score prediction. But we'll have to enjoy it while we can. Hopefully,
before next week's episode, I will go back and tally the score predictions and see who's had the better year.
Yeah, that's a good one. All right. Well, if you listened this far, thank you very much. Looking forward to game this Saturday night game. Always fun when you can, even if it's a road game, watch the game at nighttime. And with that, thanks for listening, and go Mean Green.
Go Mean Green.